Hey guys, welcome through here. So today we're going to have a very fascinating question. I think this video is going to be a very interesting video just because of the question we're going to be answering today. And that question is, are you smart enough? Or more specifically, are you smart enough to work in IT? Are you smart enough to work in IT? Now I know that is a very loaded question. Asking, are you smart enough to work in IT? Because if you think about people like, the typical people we think about in IT, in pop culture are your Mark Zuckerbergs, right? Your Elon Musk, your Steve Jobs, your Bill Gates. And these guys, they seem to be on a whole different level in terms of their genius level, right? In terms of the aptitude and the kind of things that they do. So it makes sense that a lot of us who are exposed to that culturally tend to associate these guys, to put them on a different pedestal, and then the rest of us are here, or most people are here. But it doesn't even go just to celebrities and the celebrity people in tech. It could be average people, right? If you think about, say, college, or people who major in computer science, or people who did math, right? And math works a lot with computers. There is that idea of the geek, right? Oh, he's a geek. It means that he should be very smart, right? Or that people who work in IT in general are people that are very smart. And the reason why I'm making this video is that there could be a lot of people that are sitting on the fence and they're thinking of maybe making a switch. They've heard about IT. They maybe have a passion for it. They're thinking of making a switch and they want to get into IT. And then they stay on the sideline and they have this hesitation because they don't feel smart enough. They don't feel like they have what it takes to make it into IT and to succeed. Now, IT in general is, first of all, a huge field. To say make it in IT and succeed, what does it mean? Do you mean succeed as a programmer? Or do you mean succeed as a help desk person? Or do you mean succeed as a network engineer? Or succeed as a PM, a project manager, or a quality analyst? There are a lot of things that are required, and those things may have different skills and different requirements to it. So what kind of smart are we talking about here to succeed in IT? Right, so that's already the first kind of hole we can start poking once we look at this question. And if this is something that's holding you back and saying, am I smart enough to make it in IT? Well, if you start looking at it, IT is, first of all, a very diverse field and requiring different sets of experiences. And depending on what experience you have and what your interest is, the question then becomes, can you align that interest into something that exists within the field of IT? And so that question of, are you smart enough, then becomes a moot point, because the question then becomes, what do you bring to the table and where does it fit into the field of IT? So I know this is really an interesting video, but I want to share it I wanted to make this video because it's something that personally too, I have related to that in terms of, at certain points, some people, I can talk to people who look at me and think I'm a genius, and then sometimes I look at myself and I'm like, man, I must be the dumbest person that exists on the planet based on the kind of people that I see and the things that I interact with, right? So it then becomes a spectrum, and you're sitting there and you're like, where do you fall? And then once you add in the whole mix of the imposter syndrome, where because things are changing, you're always having to learn. Sometimes you feel like, I don't know enough, or I haven't been caught up enough with the technologies. I don't know maybe what cloud is. I don't know machine learning, and I don't know data science, and I don't know networking, and I haven't heard this new protocol that came out. And so many things are going around you. And with all these innovations that are happening, it makes sense that people sometimes just feel dejected, and they're like, maybe I'm not smart enough, or maybe I just can't keep up, right? For those that are already in the field, or for those that are outside, they might be thinking, I can't make it. Everybody that's there is so smarter than me, right? And that's why I made this video. To show you a little example, I have a bunch of books here, and I'm gonna put this here, and I'll show those books. So I have a bunch of books. I've done data warehousing, data integration, ETL, enterprise architecture, my master's degree, and I've done my own fair share of of technology, and I've learned a lot along the way. So I've read books that I have. So this is just a few other books I was able to pick up here. You know, Hadoop in practice, when I was learning Hadoop many like 4 or 5 years ago. This book, I've read this one. This are a lot of my Hadoop books. For some reason they were together. That one. Python books on Python. The one I was even looking for was my book on Spark. And there's one on Spark, there's machine learning, and there's just a lot of things that I buy the books for to read. And I wanted to talk about this particular book, this one book in particular. This, when I was learning Hadoop, this was back in 2000 and it might be have been 2013, 14, somewhere around there. I'm not exactly sure. But I bought this book and I was reading Duck Coding, and I heard at the time. So this book talks a lot about Duck Coding, but it was written by Tom White. They call it a definitive guide. But I usually tell people that this was like the Bible of Hadoop at the time, because things have changed now when I'm making this video. So I used to tell people that this was like the Bible. This is the book that you have to read. You see, I have bookmarked it. I have papers in there, and MapReduce and combiners, partitioners, Zookeeper, and a lot of things that this was talking about. So just imagine, I bought this book the first time that I was reading. I read it a couple of times, and I'm going through and I'm looking at this and I'm like reading name nodes, data nodes, you know, job trackers, task trackers, and all these kind of things are just being bombarded at you. And I'm looking at it and I'm taking that all in. And given my head is the type of head that likes to always wonder, right, and think about things, and I'm just there thinking about Duck Coding, and I'm thinking, this guy must be very fascinating, because just reading this book and making sense out of it, where somebody is explaining it to you, and it gives you headache to understand what is going on here in terms of the entire architecture. Just imagine Duck, who invented this thing in the first place. Where did he get his brain from? Right? It's so mind-blowing. Now with Spark, right? Like I look at it and I'm like, man, I don't even understand how this thing works. I know it works, but sometimes I'm like, how does this work? Right? Or machine learning, you know, that's really been my interest now, and I've read a lot of books. I have a lot of books around machine learning, and also, you know, reading a book around machine learning. And I was going through, let me put this down, I was going through that book on machine learning, and one of the things that it was talking about was the neural network, the deep neural network. You have your input layers, and you have your deep layers, you have your output layers, and it talks about forward propagation. You're taking, you know, the weight times, you know, the activation. You're taking the weight, you're applying activation functions, and you're keeping doing that forward, and you start applying partial derivatives, and you're coming back and you're figuring out errors, and you're subtracting the errors, and then you go back, and then for some reason this thing that you've done and all this math is supposed to see a picture and tell you if that picture is a cat or a dog. How does that make sense in my head? I mean, it's difficult, right? And you can see in that situation why someone will look at it and look at themselves and say, hey, I'm dumb, man. I'm the dumbest person that there is on earth, because I'm getting headaches to read this thing and understand it. From that perspective, sure. But someone from the other side might be looking at you and like, this guy is a genius. I go somewhere and I'm talking about machine learning and forward propagation, back propagation, prior derivatives. I can explain it a little bit now for the little that I understand. And there are people that just look at me and they're like, where is this person coming from? He's like on a whole different level. And then me, I'm sitting there, I'm like, this person that figured out all this thing, where did they come from? They're on a whole different level, right? So that's the reality. That's just the reality. Are you smart enough to work in IT? It shouldn't be a barrier. It shouldn't even be a question to ask, to be honest, right? I don't even know why I'm making a video about this, because it shouldn't even be a question. Sure, of course, you're smart enough. I know there might be situations where people just maybe have something that they just cannot learn. I mean, if I say what is 1 plus 1, and you say 1 plus 1 equals 8, for example, right? And then you're like, are you smart enough to work in IT? Yeah, we might say let's question that a little bit, because this is really out there, right? Like, you know, but barring extremes, and I'm gonna get my paper here. So barring extremes and very weird situations, sure, everybody's smart enough to work in IT. Like I said earlier, it just has to depend on where you fit in, what niche do you fit in, what skill sets do you bring in the table, because everybody has a skill. There's nobody on this planet that you show me that doesn't have a skill or isn't good at something. Most people have, everybody should have something that is their skill, is their strength, right? It might not compare to everybody else's strength, but that's what they have. And the question then becomes, can you fit that into the IT ecosystem? So it really pains sometimes when you see topics like this, or people not achieving their goals or taking that step and getting in because they feel that maybe I'm not smart enough, or am I smart enough, or everyone is smarter than me. No, guys, if that's really your barrier to entry, no. The way I would reframe this question is that smart is a characteristic of something. I would put it this way. Let me use a green one. Am I disciplined enough? Am I curious enough? Do I have the work ethics enough? Do I have perseverance enough? So there are a lot of other skills that you can factor in here, right? Do I have patience enough, right? So things like curiosity, maybe you're not able to write the best or write program or do programming and things like that, right? Because programmers kind of think in a different way, in a logical way and stuff. Maybe you're just curious enough and you can work in support and be able to troubleshoot things and ask questions and figure it out. So you still have a role to play in IT, right? So maybe you have good organizational skills. You might not understand how to write code or understand the math to doing networking or machine learning, but maybe you can become a good project manager that manages a team of machine learning engineers and still be very effective in the field of IT, right? So there is room for everybody. That's just basically what I'm trying to get to in this video. You just have to look at what you bring into the table, right? And then how you fit in there, because that's stereotypical perspective that people have, that you need to be a geek, or you need to be like out of this world kind of smart, whatever that smart means, to be able to work in IT. Is not true. It's not true at all, right? And with the availability of information, calculators, right? You can't calculate, you're not good at math, and you cannot calculate 250 times 3,000 or times that and square root of that. Boom, put it in the calculator and you can figure it out, right? You don't need to be memorizing all that and doing all those complicated things in your head. You don't. Let's say you really want to get into programming and you can't retain things in your brain, and you just want to understand how a function that does something. Guys, Google. Literally every developer will tell you without Google, they're nobody. Most. Me, I know myself, right? SQL, for example. Why would I memorize all these functions and they change every single day, and SQL, PL SQL, and that SQL, Oracle is different, and all those things? No, if just have the basic understanding of what's going on and then search for the rest, right? Go online, go on Google and YouTube, watch videos and search for the rest, and you can always bring it all together. So you're smart enough, you are smart enough. And this question misses the point, because it's not even the question that we're asking. The question we should be asking is, what are you good at? Not asking what are you not good at. Ask, what are you good at? What do you bring to the table? And I think that the great companies, the great teams can map that into, into a role that they have, that they need to fill. And if that's the question you're asking, there is room for you. But if you're asking the question of very generic, or am I smart enough? And no, you are. You definitely are. IT is a field for everybody. You can make it. It might seem complicated, but guess what? You can make it. Because just you doubting yourself and feeling like you're not smart, somebody might be looking at you and you're a genius to them. You are a genius to them. And there's no reason to take your skills and your competencies and keep it and deprive it from the world because you doubt yourself. So guys, believe in yourself. Get in there. Sure, does it take a lot of hard work? You want to learn Python, right? You cannot learn it overnight, right? Maybe if the question is, are you smart enough to learn things overnight? Or maybe in that case we might say no, right? Because it's like, am I smart enough to wake up in 1 week, I want to learn Python? If that's the kind of mindset you have, then you really become frustrated, right? And then we can make the argument that maybe not so, because everything takes time. You have to put in the work, right? Like this book that I showed here, I can't tell you how many times that I went one time, I pick a topic and I go, and then I try to do a project, and I try to write code and emulate what the guy is talking about. I get confused, and then I come back, and then you keep struggling and fighting and boxing and going, and then eventually people think that you've mastered something, right? Mastery, right? But really, right? Because the smart just comes from mastery, and mastery comes from practice. So the people that want to pick a book and look at it for 1 hour and worry that, well, am I smart enough? Sure, you are not, because you haven't put in the 10,000 hours that are needed to master things, right? I might be looking at machine learning and it's interesting to me, but have I put in the 10,000 hours to become an expert? No. By the time I hit that, I say I hit the 10,000 hours, we're really talking about something new in the future. But you just have to have that mindset of being curious, being disciplined. If you say you're going to do something, do it. If you're reading a book, finish it. If there's a concept you don't understand, are you curious enough to research, to go online and figure things out so you can bring it all to your head and understand it? If you have those skills, guys, you will succeed. And then this question again, like I said, becomes very mute. All right, I hope you got some value out of this video. It was a little bit of a random video. It's a question that I've seen around, and I just thought, you know, I could give my opinion about it. I think everyone is smart, and I think you are smart. If you like it, guys, like this video. I think it's gonna be a very smart thing to do. And if you have any questions, leave it in the comments section below. I will try to answer them. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel, I make videos like this to educate, to inspire, and to hopefully entertain. I don't know if I'm that funny to be entertaining, but I hope you get some entertainment out of it. So make sure you subscribe so we make videos like this, you can always see them. And I say this in every video, but the very first link below in the description is going to be a link to an extension that all this video has been indexed there, guys. It's a free extension for you. So what you can do is, if you're getting value out of this, guys, why don't you give me value back? So make sure you share that extension so that many people can see it and they can use it. Again, like I said, that will be a very, not just a kind thing for you to do, but I think it's going to be a very smart thing for you to do. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.